I'm a black nurse who donates her kidney to a homeless man and discovers he's the missing tech billionaire the world thought was dead. It started on the worst Tuesday of my life, with the 4 words no nurse ever wants to hear. He's being moved to palliative. Dr. Evans didn't even look at me when he said it. He just kept scribbling on his chart, his pen scratching against the paper like a tiny, angry insect. Palliative. The end of the line. A quiet room where we make you comfortable while you wait to die. No, I said. The word came out sharper than I intended. We can't. Not Ben. He finally looked up, his eyes tired and gray. Nia, we've done everything. His kidneys are completely gone. He's not a candidate for the transplant list. No family, no address, no insurance that would cover the post-op care. It's a resource issue. My hands are tied. A resource issue? I could feel the heat rising in my chest. He's a person, Dr. Evans, not a line item on a budget. The staff called him Ben. He'd been in and out of my ER for the last 6 months, always quiet, always polite, even when he was in so much pain he could barely speak. He never asked for anything, not even for the extra blanket I always made sure he got. There was a stillness in his eyes, a deep, settled sadness that reminded me so much of my father in his last days. It was a look that said he'd already seen the end of the world and was just waiting for the credits to roll. He's a good man, I whispered, my voice cracking. Dr. Evans sighed, the sound heavy with the weight of 1,000 similar conversations. They're all good men, Nia. You can't save them all. He walked away, leaving me standing alone in the middle of the hallway's organized chaos. Beeps and alarms echoed around me, a soundtrack to a dozen tiny heartbreaks. But all I could hear was the ticking clock of Ben's life. Dr. Evans was wrong. I couldn't save them all. But maybe, just maybe, I could save this one. I pushed through the doors to his room. He was curled on his side, a thin sheet pulled up to his chin. The constant hum of the dialysis machine was the only other sound. His skin, usually a warm olive tone, was pale and washed out under the fluorescent lights. I walked over and gently touched his arm. His eyes fluttered open. They were a startling hazel, flecked with gold, and for a moment, the fog of his illness cleared. Nia, he murmured, his voice a dry rasp. Hey, Ben, I said, forcing a smile. How are you feeling? He tried to shrug, a small, weak movement, like a ship taking on water. He offered a weak smile of his own, and it tore me apart. Even now, he was trying to make me feel better. We're not giving up, I told him, my voice fierce. He just looked at me with that profound sadness. It's okay, he whispered. You've done more than enough. I shook my head, my throat tight. I busied myself checking his vitals, my fingers finding the weak pulse in his wrist. And that's when I saw it again. A small, perfect crescent moon birthmark on the inside of his wrist. It was a unique little detail, the kind of thing you notice when you spend hours watching over someone. I'd traced it with my eyes 100 times before, a tiny piece of who he was. His words just hung in the air, and my heart broke. It's moments like this that stick with you, you know? Hey, my friend, hope you're doing well. Drop a comment and let me know how you're feeling about this story so far and where you're watching from. Some stories are too close to my heart to share on YouTube. I send those, along with little life lessons and surprises, to my email circle. If you'd like to be part of it, you can join with the link in the description. I finished my shift in a daze, the hospital's bright lights feeling harsh and cruel. On the drive home, I called my sister, Amara. She was the practical one, the one who always knew what to do. He's dying, Amara, I said, the words catching in my throat. They're just going to let him die because he doesn't have money or a home. Oh, Nia, she sighed. I could picture her rubbing her temples. It's that homeless man again, isn't it? The one you keep bringing soup to. His name is Ben. I know his name. Honey, you have to learn to protect your heart. You get too attached. You did the same thing with Mr. Henderson and his cat. You can't carry the whole world on your shoulders. So, I should just do nothing? Just watch him fade away. You should do your job, she said, her voice firm but not unkind. And your job is to care for them while they're there. You can't take them all home with you. You can't give them pieces of yourself. I ended the call feeling more alone than ever. Amara was right, of course. My empathy was a liability in my line of work. I felt everything too deeply. It was a flaw that left me bruised and exhausted at the end of every shift. But it was also the only way I knew how to be. My father was the same way. He was a history teacher who would spend his own money on books for students who couldn't afford them. He saw the person, not the problem. He taught me that compassion wasn't about feeling sorry for someone. It was about doing something. When I got to my small house, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, the silence pressing in on me. I thought of Ben's kind eyes, the ghost of a smile on his face, the quiet dignity he carried like a shield. The system had failed him. Society had failed him. And now his own body was failing him. Amara's words echoed in my head. You can't give them pieces of yourself. But what if I could? The thought was a tiny spark in the darkness, and it grew quickly into a raging fire. It was crazy. It was impulsive. It was the most terrifying idea I'd ever had. But it felt right. I turned on my laptop, the bright screen hurting my eyes. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing in words I never thought I would. Anonymous kidney donation. Living donor requirements. Paired exchange program. The statistics were daunting. The waiting list was years long. But for a direct, anonymous donation, if you were a match, the process could be faster. Much faster. I was O-negative, the universal donor. The odds were better than they should be. The hospital had a program. I read every word, my heart pounding against my ribs. It was a massive decision, a surgery with real risks. What if something went wrong? What if my remaining kidney failed later in life? My practical side, the part of me that sounded a lot like my sister, screamed at me to close the laptop and go to bed. But then I saw Ben's face in my mind. I saw him fading, becoming another statistic, another forgotten soul erased by a world that didn't have time for him. The thought was unbearable. I pulled up the initial screening form.
Name, age,
medical history, blood type. With a deep breath that felt like a plunge into icy water, I began to type. I was giving a piece of myself to a stranger, a man the world had thrown away, a man who reminded me of the father I still missed every single day. I didn't know his last name. I didn't know his story. All I knew was that I couldn't stand by and watch his end. The next 2 weeks were a blur of secret appointments and blood tests. I used my vacation days, telling Amara I was just taking a mental health break. Every needle prick, every invasive question from the hospital's donor advocate felt like a step on a path I couldn't turn back from. You understand you can change your mind at any time, the advocate, a kind woman named Sarah, told me. No one will judge you. This is an incredible gift, but it's also a major sacrifice. I understand, I said, my voice steady, even though my hands were shaking. I insisted on complete anonymity. I didn't want him to know. I didn't want him to feel indebted or burdened. This wasn't for praise or for thanks. It was just necessary. It was for the quiet man with the sad eyes who deserved a second chance. Then the call came. I was at work in the middle of a chaotic shift. I stepped into the supply closet to answer my cell.
Nia?
It's Sarah. I held my breath. You're a perfect match. Relief washed over me so intensely my knees went weak. I leaned against a shelf of bandages, a shaky laugh escaping my lips. It was real. This was happening. The surgery is scheduled for Friday, she said. We're telling the recipient that a donor was found through the paired exchange program. He won't know a thing. Thank you, I whispered. That Friday couldn't come fast enough. Ben was getting weaker. I could see it every time I checked on him. The light in his eyes was dimming, his voice barely a whisper. But he always managed a small smile for me. He held on. He was a fighter. The night before the surgery, I left work and walked out into the cool night air. A group of nurses stood near the entrance, chatting and laughing. As I passed, I caught a snippet of their conversation. Did you see that new documentary? One of them, a young resident named Chloe, asked. The one about that tech guy who disappeared? Oh yeah, Benjamin Richard, another nurse chimed in. So crazy. He had everything. Billions of dollars, a genius inventor, and he just vanishes from his yacht. They said he was brilliant but really private. My steps slowed. I knew the name, of course. Benjamin Richard was a local legend. His company, Aperture, had basically built the city, its glass towers dominating the skyline. His disappearance 5 years ago had been a massive story. Chloe shivered dramatically. They never found a body. The show made it sound like his fiancé might have had something to do with it. She took over the whole company. But the creepiest part was what the lead detective said. What was that? He said the one thing that could ever prove it was him if he ever turned up was this really weird birthmark on his wrist. A perfect little crescent moon. The world stopped. The chatter of the nurses, the distant wail of a siren, the gentle night breeze, it all faded into a deafening roar in my ears. A crescent moon. On his wrist. My blood turned to ice. My breath hitched in my chest. I thought of the man lying in a hospital bed on the 5th floor. The quiet, gentle man I was about to give a part of my body to. The man I knew only as Ben.
No.
It was a coincidence. It had to be. It couldn't be him. It just couldn't. My feet felt nailed to the pavement. A crescent moon. The words echoed in the sudden, ringing silence of my own mind. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, a frantic drum against my skin. It was impossible. A coincidence. A cruel joke played by a universe that loved to see me get in over my head. My shift was over, but I turned around and walked back into the hospital, my legs moving on their own. I needed to see him. I needed to see that birthmark and convince myself it was just a smudge, a shadow, anything but what those nurses said. The palliative care wing was quiet, hushed with a kind of reverence for the journey its patients were on. I pushed open his door gently. He was asleep, his breathing shallow. The only light was the faint green glow from the monitors, painting his face in ghostly shades. I crept to his bedside, my rubber-soled shoes making no sound on the polished floor. His arm was resting on top of the thin blanket, his wrist turned toward me. And there it was. Not a shadow, not a smudge. It was perfect. A tiny, silver-white crescent moon carved into his olive skin. It seemed to shimmer in the low light. My breath caught. I reached out, my fingers trembling, hovering just inches from his skin. I wanted to touch it, to prove it was real, but I was afraid. Afraid of what it meant.
Who was this man?
Was I about to give a piece of myself to a ghost? To a lie? My mind raced with a dozen reasons to back out. I could call Sarah, the advocate, right now. Tell her I was sick, that I'd changed my mind. No one would blame me. It was my body, my choice. My sister's voice was in my head, clear as a bell. Asterisk, you get too attached, Nia. You can't save them all. Asterisk. Just then, his eyes fluttered open. He didn't seem startled to see me, just accepting. Nia, he rasped, his voice barely there. I'm sorry, I whispered, pulling my hand back. I didn't mean to wake you. He gave that same, heartbreakingly weak smile. It's okay. The dreams aren't so good anyway. He looked at me, his gaze so clear, so direct, it felt like he could see right through my panic. Are you all right? He asked. You look scared. The question disarmed me. Here he was, hours from death, and he was worried about me. The absurdity of it, the simple human kindness, shattered my fear. In that moment, he wasn't a missing billionaire. He wasn't a mystery or a cold case file. He was just Ben, my patient, a good man on a ship taking on water, and I was his lifeboat. I'm fine, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I squeezed his hand, the one without the birthmark. Just tired. You get some rest, okay? I'll see you tomorrow. He nodded, his eyes drifting shut again. See you tomorrow. I walked out of that room with a strange sense of peace. It didn't matter who he used to be. The man he was now deserved to live. I was going through with it. The next morning, the world was a blur of blue scrubs and bright lights. They wheeled me into the operating room, And the last thing I saw before the anesthesia took hold was my sister Amara's face, her expression a mixture of terror and fierce, protective love. "Don't you dare leave me to deal with Mom alone," she'd said, trying for a joke, but her eyes were wet. Waking up was a different story. It felt like I'd been kicked in the side by a horse. A deep, throbbing pain radiated from my abdomen with every breath. Amara was there, holding a cup of ice chips. "You did it, you crazy, stubborn woman," she said, her voice soft. She helped me take a sip. "They said it went perfectly. For both of you." I closed my eyes, a wave of relief, so powerful it almost hurt more than the incision. "He's okay." "He's more than okay," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. The surgeons said the kidney started working before they even finished closing him up. They're calling it a miracle. The days that followed were a slow crawl. I was stiff and sore, shuffling down the hospital hallways for my required walks, feeling a strange phantom limb sensation. But for an organ, I had a new scar, a permanent reminder of the piece of me I'd given away. I asked about Ben constantly, but because of the anonymous donation policy, the nurses on my floor could only give me vague, official updates. The recipient is in stable condition and recovering well. It wasn't enough. A male nurse on the post-op floor, Alex, was kinder than the rest. He had a friendly smile and seemed to understand my need for information. "He's a fighter, that one," Alex told me one afternoon when he saw me looking toward the recovery wing. "He's already up and walking, asking for books to read. The doctors are amazed." His words were a balm on my soul. A few weeks later, I was back at work on light duty, feeling mostly like myself again. But the hospital felt different. I felt different. A part of me was walking around in someone else's body, and the need to see him, to see for myself that he was truly okay, was an ache I couldn't ignore. After my shift, I took the elevator up to the transplant recovery floor. I told myself I was just curious. A professional follow-up. It was a lie, and I knew it. I found his room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and I peered inside. He was sitting in a chair by the window, bathed in the warm afternoon sunlight. He wasn't just better. He was transformed. The gray, papery skin was gone, replaced by a healthy, warm olive tone. The gaunt hollowness in his cheeks had filled out. He had a book in his lap, and his focus was so intense, he seemed to have forgotten where he was. He was no longer the fading shadow from the ER. He looked solid.
Real.
Powerful. My heart did a strange flip in my chest. I knocked softly on the doorframe. He looked up, and his hazel eyes widened. For a second, there was confusion, then a slow, dawning recognition.
Nia.
He said my name, but it sounded completely different. It was full and clear, no longer a dry rasp. He stood up, placing the book on his chair. He was taller than I'd realized. "Hi, Ben," I said, my voice a little shaky. I heard you were doing well. I wanted to see for myself." "I am," he said, a genuine, brilliant smile spreading across his face. It changed everything. It was like seeing the sun for the first time. "I feel new. I don't know how to thank the person who did this. They gave me back my life." We stood in an awkward silence for a moment, the immense, unspoken truth between us.
He didn't know.
He truly didn't know. "I'm glad," I said finally. I took a step closer, my eyes drawn to his wrist. I had to know for sure. I had to hear it from him. "Your wrist," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "The birthmark. I saw a documentary." His smile vanished. The light in his eyes dimmed, replaced by a guarded, haunted look I recognized from the ER. He knew exactly what I was asking. He slowly turned his wrist over, revealing the perfect crescent moon. "I've had a lot of time to think, lying here," he said, his voice low. "The fog, it's been lifting. I remember things. Your face. Your voice telling me you weren't giving up." He met my gaze, and the sadness in his eyes was so profound it made my own ache in sympathy. "Ben is just a name I took. A name for a ghost." He took a deep breath. "My name is Benjamin Richard." The air rushed out of my lungs. Hearing him say it made it real, concrete, terrifying. All the implications, all the danger, came crashing down on me. I had to disappear, he continued, his voice heavy with the weight of his story. The money, the company, it was a cage. And my fiancée, Sloane, she wasn't going to let me go. She saw the company as hers. She saw me as an obstacle. She arranged the accident. I knew she would. I just barely got away. He looked around the sterile hospital room. I thought I was free. I never counted on my own body turning against me. I almost died on a street corner in a city I helped build. He looked at me then, and his expression was one of raw vulnerability. You saved me, Nia, in more ways than you know. My heart swelled. All the doubt, all the fear I'd felt, melted away. This was why I did it. For this man. For this moment. Before I could say anything, the door swung open. Alex, the friendly nurse, stood there, but his smile was gone. It was replaced by a stiff, professional mask, and standing behind him was a woman who seemed to suck all the warmth out of the room. She was tall and slender, dressed in an expensive-looking dark dress. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tightly it looked painful, and her eyes, a pale, cold blue, scanned the room with an air of ownership. Benjamin froze. All the color drained from his face. Sloane, he breathed, the name a curse. Sloane Devereaux ignored him completely. Her icy gaze landed on me, looking me up and down with open disgust. Alex wouldn't meet my eyes. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. He hadn't been kind. He'd been a spy. So, Sloane said, her voice smooth and sharp like a shard of glass. This is the one. The little ER nurse with a hero complex. She took a step into the room, her presence filling every corner. Tell me, did you run his prints before or after you decided he was your ticket out of obscurity? It's a clever plan, I'll give you that. Find a sick, vulnerable man, fill his head with fantasies, and manipulate him into thinking you're his savior. She finally turned to Benjamin, her expression softening into a false, pitying smile.
Oh, darling.
Look what she's done to you. Don't you worry. I'm here now. I'll protect you from this opportunist. My jaw went slack. The words hung in the air, sharp and poisonous. Opportunist. Manipulator. For a wild second, I thought I was going to be sick. The pain in my side, a dull throb from the surgery, flared into a hot, sharp sting. Alex the nurse, the one who'd brought me extra juice, the one who'd smiled and called Benjamin a fighter, wouldn't even look at me. He just stared at a spot on the wall behind my head, his face a blank, guilty mask. Benjamin moved, placing himself slightly in front of me. It was a small movement, but it was a shield. That's enough, Sloane, he said, his voice low and hard, a sound I'd never heard from him before. It was the voice of a man used to being in charge. Sloane let out a small, delicate laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Enough? Darling, we're just getting started. She took another step, her expensive heels clicking softly on the floor. She smelled like money and cold flowers. I've already spoken with the hospital board. I've made them aware of the situation. A nurse with a history of getting overly involved with her patients finds a John Doe who just happens to be a missing billionaire. She fast-tracks an organ donation, her own organ, how wonderfully dramatic, and suddenly, he's remembering who he is. It's a story, I'll grant you that. A touching, unbelievable story. Every word was a perfectly aimed dart. I could feel the blood draining from my face. She was twisting the most selfless thing I'd ever done into something ugly and calculated. You're lying, I said, my voice shaking with a rage that surprised me. You don't know anything about me. Oh, but I do, Nia West, she purred, her eyes glittering. I know you grew up in a little house on the east side. I know your father was a teacher who died with more books than money. I know your sister is a very sensible accountant who constantly worries about you. I know you've been written up twice for spending too much time with patients. I know everything. A cold dread washed over me. She had investigated me. She had dug into my life, turning it over and looking for cracks she could use to break me. This wasn't a sudden confrontation. It was a planned attack. Benjamin stepped forward again, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Leave her out of this. This is between you and me." Sloane's fake smile finally fell, replaced by a flash of real bitterness. "You made it about her when you let her get this close. Did you tell her everything, Benjamin? Did you tell her how you were going to destroy the company? Our company? The one we built from nothing in your parents' garage?" She turned her furious gaze on me. "Did he tell you he was unstable? That he was having paranoid delusions and was about to sell off our most valuable assets for a fraction of what they were worth?" "I didn't try to hurt him," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I tried to save him. I tried to save our legacy from his own self-destruction." I looked at Benjamin, searching his face. The story she was weaving was horrifyingly plausible. A brilliant mind cracking under pressure. It was the oldest story in the book. But the man I was looking at, the man whose hand I'd held while he whispered about a ship taking on water, didn't seem like a monster. He looked like a man who had been hunted for a very long time. His face was pale, his expression a mixture of pain and exhaustion. "She's twisting the truth," he said, his eyes locked on mine, pleading with me to believe him. "She wanted control. That's all she's ever wanted." Two large men in hospital security uniforms appeared in the doorway behind Alex. They were trying to look casual, but their presence was a clear threat. My time was up. "I think it's time for you to go, Miss West," Sloane said, her voice returning to its icy calm. She nodded to the security guards. "Please escort the nurse out. She's no longer welcome on this floor." My career flashed before my eyes. The years of school, the crushing student loans, the double shifts, the moments of connection with patients that made it all worthwhile. All of it was about to be destroyed by this woman in a matter of minutes. One of the guards, a big man with a tired face, took a step toward me. "Ma'am, please come with us." I was frozen. Humiliation washed over me, hot and suffocating. I had given a part of my body to save this man, and now I was being thrown out of his room like a criminal. "No." Benjamin's voice cut through the tension. Everyone looked at him. He was standing tall now, his hospital gown looking ridiculous on a frame that was suddenly filled with an undeniable authority. "She stays," he said. "If she leaves, I'm leaving with her. Right now." Sloane scoffed. "Don't be absurd. You're in no condition to go anywhere." "Try me," he said, and for the first time, I saw the billionaire. I saw the power that had built an empire. He took a deliberate step toward the door, his movements still weak, but his intention was perfectly clear. The security guards looked confused, glancing from Sloane to Benjamin, unsure of whose orders to follow. Sloane's face tightened, her perfectly controlled mask cracking. She couldn't let him leave. She couldn't let the world see him like this, siding with me. It would ruin her carefully crafted story. "Fine," she hissed, the words sharp as a razor. "She can stay. For now." She gave me a look that promised 1,000 different kinds of pain. "But this isn't over." She turned and swept out of the room, Alex the nurse trailing behind her like a guilty shadow. The security guards hesitated for a moment, then retreated down the hall. The silence they left behind was heavy and loud. Benjamin swayed on his feet, and I rushed forward, grabbing his arm to steady him. He leaned on me, his strength gone as quickly as it had appeared. I helped him back to the chair by the window. He sank into it, burying his face in his hands, his whole body trembling. "Thank you," I whispered, my own voice unsteady. "You didn't have to do that." He looked up, his eyes filled with a desperate intensity. "They can't get to me in here," he said, his voice urgent. "The doctors, the real nurses, they won't let her just take me. But she's not going to give up. She'll have me declared incompetent. She'll move me to a private facility where she controls everything. She's already started the narrative. I'm the crazy, unstable billionaire, and you're the gold-digging nurse who's manipulating me." He reached out and gripped my hand. His was warm and strong. "I'm a prisoner here, Nia, and you're in danger just for being near me." The truth of his words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I wasn't just a donor anymore. I was a witness, a loose end. My pager buzzed at my waist, a shrill, insistent command. It was my floor manager. I knew what it was before I even looked. I was being summoned. I had to go face the consequences. I have to go, I said, gently pulling my hand away. Don't let them shut you out, he said, his eyes pleading. Don't let her win. Walking down the hallway felt like walking a green mile. Nurses I'd known for years averted their eyes. Whispers followed me like a cloud of insects. In the administration office, my manager, Brenda, and the head of the hospital's legal department were waiting for me. They had expressions of deep, professional regret. Nia, Brenda began, her voice strained. In light of the very serious allegations made by Ms. Devereaux, we have no choice but to place you on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. Administrative leave. The words were clinical, sterile, but they felt like a death sentence. Allegations. I said, my voice rising. She walked in here and told a bunch of lies. I saved that man's life. The lawyer cleared his throat. Ms. Devereaux is the CEO of Aperture. She is the legal guardian of Mr. Richards' estate and holds his medical power of attorney. According to her, he is a vulnerable adult, and you have exerted undue influence. Until we can sort this out, you are not to have any contact with the patient. You are to hand over your hospital ID and pager. Your access to the building is revoked. It was happening, just like Benjamin said. She was cutting me off, isolating him. I felt a surge of helpless fury. I unclipped my ID, the plastic badge with my smiling face on it, and placed it on the polished table. It felt like I was giving up a part of myself. The part that helped people. The part that mattered. The drive home was a blur. My mind was a whirlwind of Sloane's cruel words and the hospital lawyer's cold pronouncements. When I walked into my little house, Amara was there, sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of papers and a worried look. I got a call from Brenda, she said, her voice tight. She gave me the professional version. Now, you tell me what the hell is really going on. So I told her. I told her everything. About the birthmark, about Benjamin's confession, about Sloane's arrival and her venomous accusations. Amara listened without interrupting, her face growing more and more pale. When I finished, she stood up and started pacing my small kitchen. I knew it, she said, not with triumph, but with a deep, aching sorrow. I knew you were getting in too deep. Nia, this woman is powerful. She can ruin you. She can destroy your career, bury you in legal fees you can't afford. You have to walk away from this.
Now.
Let the lawyers handle it. I can't, I said, shaking my head. The words felt truer than anything I had ever said. If I walk away, she wins. She'll lock him away somewhere, and he'll really disappear this time. For good. You didn't see the look in her eyes, Amara. She's capable of anything. And what are you capable of? She demanded, stopping in front of me. You're a nurse, not a private detective. What can you possibly do? Her question hung in the air, unanswered. She was right. What could I do? I had no money, no power, no influence. All I had was the truth, and Sloane had already proven that the truth was easy to twist. I felt a wave of despair wash over me. Maybe Amara was right. Maybe the smart thing, the only thing, was to run. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My hands shook as I opened it. The message was short. Asterisk, they're moving me tonight. A private clinic upstate. No phones allowed. I trust you. Only you. Help me. Asterisk. It was him. Benjamin. He had found a way. The message was a desperate flare in the dark, and it ignited something in me. It wasn't just about my career anymore. It wasn't just about the injustice. It was about him. The man who had faced down a monster for me. The man who, in the middle of losing everything all over again, said he trusted me. The fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach. But underneath it, a fierce, defiant resolve was taking root. Amara was right. I wasn't a detective, but I was a nurse. My entire life was about helping people who couldn't help themselves. And Benjamin Richard, for all his billions, was the most helpless person I had ever met. I looked at my sister, at her terrified, loving face. I have to get him out of there, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Amara stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. Nia, that's kidnapping. That's a felony. No, I said, my mind already racing, putting pieces together. It's a patient leaving against medical advice. He's of sound mind. As long as he walks out of there on his own 2 feet, with a witness who can say it was his choice, it's not a crime. A witness? She asked, her voice a whisper. I looked her straight in the eye. I need you to drive the car. This was it. The point of no return. My sister's words echoed in my head. You can't give them pieces of yourself. But I already had. I'd given him a kidney. Now, it seemed I was about to give him the rest of my life, too. Amara's face was a mask of disbelief, her mouth hanging open slightly. Drive the car? Nia, are you listening to yourself? This is insane. You'll go to jail. I'll go to jail. She's moving him tonight, Amara. To a place he won't be able to leave. He'll be a prisoner. I pleaded, my voice cracking. He's a good person. He doesn't deserve this. You don't know that, she shot back, her hands flying up in frustration. You know a sick man you felt sorry for. You don't know Benjamin Richard. Sloane said he was unstable, paranoid. What if she's not lying? What if you're kidnapping a mentally ill man from the people who are trying to help him? Her words hit a nerve, a tiny sliver of doubt I'd been trying to ignore. But then I saw his face in my mind, the way he looked at me, the quiet strength that had returned to him.
The trust.
She's the one who put him on a yacht and tried to kill him. I believe him, Amara. I have to.
Why?
Why do you have to be the one to fix this? She asked, her voice softening, her eyes filling with tears. You just had major surgery. You're supposed to be recovering, not planning a jailbreak. What would Dad say? That was a low blow. My father was my hero, and the thought of his disappointment was a knot in my stomach. Dad would say that you don't stand by and watch when someone is being bullied. He would say you do what's right, no matter how scary it is. We stared at each other across my little kitchen, 2 sisters on opposite sides of a canyon of fear. I could see the war in her eyes, her practical mind fighting her love for me. Finally, she let out a long, shuddering breath, the fight going out of her. Fine, she whispered, wiping at her eyes angrily.
Fine.
I'll drive the car. But if we end up sharing a cell, I am never speaking to you again. She grabbed her keys from the counter. Where are we going? Our old place, I said, a plan forming in the chaos of my mind. Grandma's cabin. No one's been up there in years. It's the last place anyone would look. The hospital at night was a different beast. Quieter, but full of long shadows that seemed to hide watching eyes. I slipped in through a service entrance I used to use on late shifts, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Amara was waiting in her sensible sedan in a dark corner of the parking garage, the engine off. I'd given her a 20-minute timer. If I wasn't back, she was to leave and call a lawyer. Getting clothes for Benjamin had been the first problem. I'd gone to an all-night department store, my hands shaking so badly I could barely swipe my credit card. I bought gray sweatpants, a dark hoodie, and sneakers, grabbing the sizes I thought would fit his taller frame. I moved through the back hallways like a ghost, my revoked ID badge feeling like a lead weight in my pocket. Every footstep, every distant cough, sent a jolt of panic through me. I took the service elevator to the 5th floor. When the doors opened, I saw 2 of Sloane's security guards standing at the end of the hall, right outside his room. My blood ran cold. The plan was dead. There was no way to get past them. I was about to retreat when one of the guards' phones rang. He answered, speaking in low tones, before nodding to his partner. Boss wants us downstairs. Main entrance.
Now.
They walked away from the room, their heavy footsteps echoing down the hall. Sloane was moving him sooner than he thought. It was now or never. I slipped into his room. He was dressed in the clothes I'd left with a friendly orderly I trusted, a young man who owed me a favor. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, his face pale with tension. Nia, he breathed, relief flooding his eyes. They were just here. They said a transport team was on its way.
I know.
We have to go. Right now. I said, my voice a harsh whisper. Can you walk? I'll crawl if I have to, he said, pushing himself to his feet. He was unsteady, leaning heavily on the bedside table. I put his arm over my shoulders, taking his weight. My own incision site screamed in protest, a sharp, fiery pain, but I bit down on my lip and ignored it. We moved down the hallway, a slow, stumbling pair. He was trying so hard to be quiet, but his new sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. Each sound was like a gunshot in the silence. We made it to the stairwell, our only option. The elevators would have cameras. I know a way out through the kitchens, I whispered, my breath coming in ragged gasps as we started down the stairs. It comes out near the east loading dock. Each step was agony, for him and for me. By the second flight of stairs, he was leaning on me so hard, I thought my knees would buckle. He was sweating, his breathing labored. I could feel the tremors running through his body. This was too much, too soon after his surgery. I'm sorry, he gasped, his head hung low. Don't be, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We're almost there. Just a little farther. We finally reached the basement level and stumbled into the hot, humid chaos of the main kitchen. A handful of night shift workers were busy cleaning, the clatter of pots and pans, and the hiss of industrial dishwashers covering our clumsy progress. No one gave us a second glance. We were just two tired people at the end of a long night. We looked like we belonged in the hospital's exhausted, invisible world. I pushed open the heavy steel door to the loading dock, and the cool night air hit us like a blessing. It smelled of rain and freedom. We half ran, half stumbled across the empty concrete lot toward the parking garage. I could see Amara's car, a small, dark shape in the distance. We were 100 feet away when the loading dock door burst open behind us.
Hey.
Stop, a man's voice yelled. We didn't look back. Adrenaline surged through me. Benjamin found a strength I didn't know he had.
We ran.
My side felt like it was ripping open, but I didn't care. We reached the car, and I threw open the back door, practically shoving him inside before scrambling into the passenger seat. Go! I screamed at Amara. She didn't need to be told twice. The tire squealed as she peeled out of the garage, not even slowing down as the exit gate arm rose. We sped out into the empty city streets, the hospital shrinking behind us. I looked back and saw two of Sloane's men standing helplessly at the garage exit, staring after us. We had done it. We were out. For a few minutes, no one spoke. The only sound was Amara's frantic breathing and the hum of the engine. Benjamin was slumped in the back seat, gasping for air. Are you okay? I asked, turning to look at him. He nodded, managing a weak smile. I've been better. His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, and there was a look of such profound gratitude in them that it made my heart ache. Amara drove for over an hour, heading north into the mountains, leaving the city lights behind. We ended up on a dark, winding dirt road. The cabin was exactly as I remembered it from my childhood, small, wooden, and smelling of pine needles and dust. It was completely isolated, surrounded by a thick forest of tall trees. Inside, I flicked a switch, and a single, bare bulb flickered to life, casting long shadows across the room. There was a worn-out sofa, a small kitchenette, and a fireplace full of old ashes. It was cold and damp, but it was safe. I'll get a fire going, Amara said, her voice still shaky. She was trying to be practical, to focus on a task. I knew it was her way of coping with the terror of what we'd just done. I helped Benjamin to the sofa. He sank into it, his face etched with pain. Let me see, I said, my nurse instincts taking over. I gently lifted the hem of his hoodie and the sweatshirt underneath. The bandage over his incision was clean, but the skin around it was red and angry. He'd pushed himself way too hard. You need to rest, I said softly. No more running. Only if you do, too, he said, his voice quiet. He looked at me, his gaze dropping to my side. You're hurt. Before I could protest, his hand came up, his fingers gently tracing the lump of the bandage under my shirt, right over my own incision. His touch was featherlight, but it sent a shockwave through my entire body. We were connected in this bizarre, intimate way. My body had saved his. We were scarred in the same place. "It's okay," I whispered, though it wasn't. He looked from my face down to my side, and then back again, and I saw a wave of understanding crash over him. His eyes widened, a million questions in them. He opened his mouth to speak, but Amara came back into the room, her arms full of firewood, breaking the spell. "Okay," she said, dumping the wood by the fireplace. "There's no TV, and the cell service is terrible, which is probably a good thing." She turned to me, her face grim. "I'm going back. I'll check on Mom. Make sure no one has come looking for you. I'll bring back food and supplies in a day or two. Try not to, I don't know, become famous criminals before I get back." She hugged me tightly, a fierce, desperate hug that said everything she couldn't put into words. Then she was gone, her car's taillights disappearing down the dark road, leaving me alone in the woods with the missing billionaire the world was looking for. We spent the next day in a quiet haze. I found some old cans of soup in the pantry, and we ate in silence while the fire crackled in the hearth. The forced stillness gave us too much time to think. The weight of what we'd done, of the danger we were in, settled over us like a heavy blanket. That evening, I managed to get a weak signal on my phone. My heart jumped when I saw a news alert. I clicked on it, my stomach twisting into a cold knot. It was a live press conference. Sloane stood at a podium, her face a perfect picture of concerned sorrow. "As many of you know, Benjamin Richard, my fiancé and partner, was recently found after 5 long years," she said, her voice thick with fake emotion. "He was unwell, a victim of a tragic mental health crisis. We were in the process of getting him the very best care when he was taken." Her voice broke. He was taken from the hospital by a deeply disturbed and predatory nurse, Nia West. My photo, my smiling hospital ID photo, flashed onto the screen behind her. This woman preyed on a vulnerable man, filling his head with delusions. She has a documented history of obsessive behavior with her patients. We believe she is a danger to him and to herself. If you see this woman or Benjamin, please do not approach them. Contact the authorities immediately. We are offering a $100,000 reward for any information that leads to a safe return. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. My face.
My name.
She had turned me into a villain, a kidnapper, a monster. Every friend, every neighbor, every person I had ever known would see this. They would believe her.
Nia.
Benjamin's voice was soft beside me. He had seen the whole thing over my shoulder. "She's destroying me," I whispered, wrapping my arms around myself. I felt cold, exposed. "She's twisting everything." "I know," he said, his own voice raw with guilt. "This is my fault. I brought this into your life." He looked out the cabin's dusty window into the dark woods. "There's something else," he said, his voice barely audible. "Something I didn't tell you. Before I disappeared, Sloane had me convinced I was losing my mind, that I was a danger to the company. She had me sign some papers." I looked at him, a new kind of dread creeping in. "What kind of papers?" He finally turned to look at me, and his eyes were full of a terrible, defeated emptiness. "She had me declared legally incompetent," he said. "And she had me sign over my full medical power of attorney."
To her.
"In the eyes of the law, Nia, she's not my ex-fiancée. She's my legal guardian. She owns me." The words hung in the cold cabin air, heavier than the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. She owns me. It wasn't just a legal term. It was a curse. A chain pulled tight around his neck, and now around mine. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The world Sloane was building outside these walls was a prison, and she was methodically laying every brick. Benjamin didn't move. He just stared at me, his face a mask of defeat. The powerful man I'd glimpsed in the hospital, the one who had defied Sloane, was gone. In his place was the ghost from the ER, the man on the ship taking on water. And we were sinking.
Fast.
I finally managed to speak, my voice a ragged whisper.
No.
"She doesn't. She has a piece of paper. We have the truth." A bitter, Humorless laugh escaped his lips. The truth is a story, Nia. And right now, she's a much better storyteller than we are. He finally looked away from me, his shoulders slumping. He looked so utterly broken that a wave of protective fury washed over me, chasing away my own fear. I knelt in front of him on the dusty floorboards, taking his hands in mine. They were cold. Then we have to tell a better story, I said, my voice fierce.
I squeezed his hands.
We will fight her.
Together.
He looked down at our joined hands, at my dark brown skin against his olive tone. He traced the scar on the back of my hand, a faint white line from a childhood fall, before his eyes met mine again. The despair in them was slowly being replaced by a flicker of something else.
Hope.
It was a fragile, dangerous thing. Why? He asked, his voice barely audible. Why are you doing this? You gave me a part of yourself. You saved my life. And now you've lost your job, your reputation. Any other person would have walked away. I'm not any other person, I said softly. I thought of my father, of his quiet strength. And you're not just some patient.
I saw you, Ben.
When you had nothing. I saw your kindness. That's real. That's worth fighting for. The silence that followed was different. It wasn't heavy with fear, but full of a quiet intensity. He raised a hand, his fingers trembling slightly as he brushed a stray curl from my face. His touch was electric, a jolt of warmth in the cold, lonely cabin. We were two fugitives, two broken people hiding in the dark, but in that moment, we were the only two people in the world. He leaned in, slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. I couldn't. When his lips met mine, it wasn't a kiss of passion, but of desperation and gratitude. It was a silent promise in the dark. It tasted of canned soup and wood smoke and the bitter tang of fear, but it was the most real thing I had ever felt. It was an anchor in a storm. I clung to him, pouring all my fear, all my hope, all my stubborn belief in him into that single, desperate touch. He pulled me closer, one hand tangling in my hair, the other pressing against the small of my back, right over the dull ache of my own healing scar. We were scarred in the same place, bound by a wound and a gift. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. I won't let her hurt you, he vowed, his forehead resting against mine. I promise. We stayed like that for a long time, drawing strength from each other while the fire slowly died down, turning to glowing orange embers that pulsed in the darkness like a stubborn heart. Amara came back 2 days later, her little car packed with groceries, blankets, and a stack of newspapers. Her face was grim. It's bad, Nia, she said, avoiding my eyes as she started unloading bags onto the counter. They're running the story everywhere. That press conference is on a loop. People I've known my whole life are looking at me differently. Mom is a wreck.
My heart sank.
Did anyone come to the house? 2 police detectives, she said, her back still to me. They asked a lot of questions. About you, about your work history. About Dad.
Dad.
I asked, confused. What does he have to do with this? Amara finally turned around, her eyes full of a pained sympathy that scared me more than anything. Sloane's story is that you have a history of fixating on patients who remind you of him, that you project your grief onto them. The hospital confirmed you were disciplined for it before. The words were a slap in the face. Disciplined? I got a talking to for buying a dying man's cat some food. They're twisting everything. Of course they are, she said wearily. She walked over and handed me a worn cardboard box. You asked me to bring some things for you. I thought maybe this would help. I looked down. It was a box of my father's old things, mostly from his teaching days. Old books, graded papers, a framed photo of his history club from the year he retired. A wave of grief and love washed over me. I carried the box over to the small wooden table. Benjamin watched me, his expression unreadable. I sat down and lifted the lid. The smell of old paper and chalk dust filled the air, the scent of my childhood. I pulled out the framed photo of the history club. There was my father, standing in the back, beaming, his arms around a group of eager-looking high school kids. I smiled, tracing his face with my finger. He had a good smile, Benjamin said quietly, coming to stand behind me. He was a good man, I said, my throat tight. I began to sift through the rest of the box. Old lesson plans, a few of his favorite history books, and a stack of essays from his advanced placement class, bound with a rubber band. The top one had a big, red A+ circled on it. The title was Economic Revolutions, the Genius and the Tyrant. I smiled at my father's dramatic flair. I was about to put it back when Benjamin's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. His grip was surprisingly tight. "Wait," he said, his voice strange. I looked at him. All the color had drained from his face. He was staring at the essay in my hand, at the familiar, looping handwriting of the student's name written in the top right corner.
Ben.
I asked, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. "What is it?" He didn't answer. He just took the stack of papers from my hand, his movement stiff, robotic. He pulled off the brittle rubber band and flipped through them, his eyes scanning the pages with a growing horror. He stopped on one, his whole body going rigid. He held it out for me to see. It was a research paper proposal. At the bottom, in my father's familiar, neat cursive, was a long, detailed note. Asterisk Benjamin, the raw intelligence here is staggering, truly. But your argument is missing a crucial element: humanity. A leader who sees people only as assets to be managed or obstacles to be removed is not a genius. They are a danger. Your ambition is a fire that could either warm the world or burn it to the ground. You must choose. I worry you're choosing the latter. Let's talk after class. A. West. Asterisk. The signature hit me like a physical blow. Asterisk A. West. Arthur West. Asterisk my father. And the name at the top of the proposal, written in a confident, youthful script, was Benjamin Richard. The room tilted. The crackling of the fire, the ticking of the old clock on the wall, it all faded into a deafening roar in my ears. I looked from the paper to Benjamin's face. The kind, sad man I had saved was gone. In his place was a stranger with a haunted, guilty secret in his eyes. "You knew," I whispered. The words felt like broken glass in my mouth. You knew who he was. He finally met my gaze, and the guilt in his eyes was so profound it was almost black. "Not at first," he said, his voice hoarse. "In the ER, I was so sick, so out of it. I just knew your face was kind. But later, in the hospital, when I heard your last name, when I saw the way you looked at me, I remembered him." "You remembered him," I repeated, my voice flat dead. "You remembered my father. And you didn't say anything." The pieces began to click into place, each one a fresh wave of agony. The way he looked at me, with that profound sadness. It wasn't a coincidence. He wasn't reminding me of my father. He was mirroring the same pain he had seen in my father's eyes years ago. "I was scared," he said, taking a step toward me. "I was weak, and I needed you. I knew what he thought of me, what you would think of me." "What did you do to him?" I demanded, my voice rising, shaking with a fury I didn't know I possessed. "That note, he was worried about you. What happened?" He flinched, turning away. "Your father was more than my teacher. He was an early mentor. When I started Aperture with Sloan, he was one of our first investors. He used his retirement savings. He believed in the vision, but he didn't believe in our methods. He hated Sloan. He said she was ruthless, that she would corrupt everything we were trying to build. He begged me to cut her out. I felt sick. My father, the cautious history teacher, had invested his entire life savings. I never knew. He'd lost it all. That's why his last years had been such a struggle. That's why my mother still had to work. It wasn't just a cruel world that had broken him.
It was a choice.
It was Benjamin's choice. You chose her over him, I stated. It wasn't a question. He finally turned back to me, his face ravaged with a guilt that was 20 years old. I was young. I was arrogant. I thought he was being sentimental. Sloan, she understood the ambition. She saw the world the way I did. We pushed him out. We bought out his shares for pennies on the dollar before we went public. He lost everything. The betrayal was so immense, so complete, that it stole the air from my lungs. It wasn't just about the money. It was about my father's spirit. Benjamin had stood by and watched Sloane Devereaux crush my father. The man who had tried to warn him. The man who had believed in him. And then, years later, he had lain in a hospital bed and let that same man's daughter give him a piece of her own body to save his life. He had let me become his savior, knowing he was my family's devil. All this time, I whispered, the words trembling with rage and heartbreak. You let me believe you were just a victim. You let me fight for you, ruin my life for you. You let me kiss you. The last words were a choked sob. The memory of that kiss, once an anchor, was now a source of deep, burning shame. Nia, I am a victim, he cried, his own voice breaking. Everything your father warned me about came true. She did corrupt it all. She corrupted me. And she did try to kill me. That part is true. Is it? I shot back, my mind spinning with suspicion. Or is that just another story? Another lie to get what you want? My father saw a tyrant in you when you were just a boy. Maybe he was right. Maybe you and Sloane deserve each other. The hurt that flashed across his face was real, but I couldn't bring myself to care. The trust I'd had in him, the deep, unexplainable connection I'd felt, was poisoned. It was all a lie. My entire narrative was a lie. I hadn't saved a man who reminded me of my father. I had saved the man who helped destroy him. I stumbled back, away from him, my hand going to my side, to the scar that now felt like a brand of my own stupidity.
He had my kidney.
A piece of my father's legacy, of my family's DNA, was inside this man, keeping him alive. The intimacy of it was horrifying. Get out, I said, my voice dangerously low. He stared at me, his eyes wide with panic. Nia, please. We're in this together. You can't send me out there. She'll find me. They'll kill me. That is no longer my problem, I said, my heart a cold, dead stone in my chest. I pointed to the door, my hand shaking. I said, get out.
Now.
The man who had built an empire, who had survived a murder attempt and life on the streets, looked completely and utterly defeated. The hope I had seen in his eyes just hours ago was gone, replaced by the same devastating emptiness my father had carried to his grave. He gave me one last, pleading look, but saw nothing in my face but a cold, impenetrable wall. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the cabin, pulling the door shut behind him, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence with the wreckage of my father's past and the ruins of my own future. The sound of the latch clicking into place echoed the sound of my own heart breaking in two. The silence he left behind was a physical thing. It pressed in on me from all sides, heavier than the cold air, louder than the crackling embers in the fireplace. I stood there, frozen, listening to the frantic thumping of my own heart. I had done it. I had cast him out. The rage that had fueled me moments before cooled rapidly, leaving a hollow, shivering void in its place. I sank onto the worn sofa, wrapping my arms around myself, but the chill was coming from the inside. My father's handwriting stared up at me from the papers scattered on the table. Your ambition is a fire that could either warm the world or burn it to the ground. Had he burned with my father? Or had my father simply been kindling for his massive, world-consuming fire? I told myself I'd made the right choice. The only choice. He was a liar, a user. He had watched my father wither and had done nothing. He deserved the cold. He deserved the dark. He deserved whatever was waiting for him out there. The words were a cold comfort. They felt like lies I was telling myself to keep from shattering completely. A dull, throbbing pain started in my side, a phantom ache that was more than just the healing incision. It was a knot of shame. A piece of me was out there in the woods with him. My kidney, my blood, my foolish, misplaced hope. The nurse in me, the part one thought was my very core, was screaming in silent protest. I had just sent a man, less than a month out from major transplant surgery, into the freezing wilderness. I, who had sworn an oath to do no harm, had just potentially sentenced him to death. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the image of his face was burned onto the back of my eyelids. The shock, the pleading, and finally, the utter, soul-crushing defeat. It was the same look my father had in his last months. The look of a man who had finally realized the world was not going to play fair. I had put that look on Benjamin's face. I had become the thing that broke him. The thought was a shard of ice in my gut. I tried to push it away, tried to cling to my anger. Anger was a shield. Anger was a wall. But the shield was cracking and the wall was crumbling, and I was terrified of what was left behind. I must have fallen asleep, a numb, exhausted sleep without dreams, because the next thing I knew, pale morning light was filtering through the dusty windows. The fire was dead. The cabin was colder than ever. For a wild, hopeful second, I thought I might hear a noise, that he might be on the porch, having spent the night huddled against the door. I listened, holding my breath. There was nothing, just the whisper of the wind through the pines. He was gone. The relief I expected didn't come. Instead, a wave of sickening dread washed over me. What had I done? I spent the day like a ghost, pacing the small room, unable to eat, unable to think. I kept walking to the window, peering out into the dense, unforgiving woods, seeing nothing but shadows. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, sent my heart leaping into my throat. The line between my righteous fury and my deep-seated guilt had blurred into a muddy, miserable gray. I was lost. Late that afternoon, the sound of Amara's car crunching up the gravel driveway was a welcome and terrifying intrusion. I flew to the door and pulled it open before she was even out of the car. Her face was a mess of fear and exhaustion.
Nia?
"What's wrong? You look awful," she said, rushing toward me and pulling me into a hug. She was carrying a bag of groceries that she dropped on the porch. "He's gone," I whispered into her shoulder, the words finally coming out. She pulled back, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Gone where? Did Sloane's people find you?"
No.
I made him leave." Amara stared at me, her mouth opening and closing. "You what?"
What are you talking about?
I led her inside and, with shaking hands, showed her our father's papers. I explained what Benjamin had told me, my voice hollow and brittle as I recounted the story of the investment, the betrayal, the way he and Sloane had crushed our father's spirit and stolen his future. My sister sank onto the sofa, the papers in her lap, her face pale. "I never knew," she whispered, tracing our father's name. "He never told me any of this." "He was too proud," I said, the old anger flaring up again. "And this man, this Benjamin, he knew it all. He knew who I was, Amara. He knew, and he used me." "So you kicked him out?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "A man who just had surgery. Our kidney, your kidney, keeping him alive. You sent him out into the woods to die." "He's a monster," I cried, the accusation in her voice stinging more than I could bear. "He destroyed our family. And what do you think you're doing right now?" she shot back, standing up to face me. Her eyes, usually so calm and practical, were blazing with a fire I'd never seen before. "You're letting him destroy it all over again. You're letting him turn you into someone I don't even recognize. Do you hear yourself? You're talking about letting a man die. Dad would be ashamed of you, Nia. Don't you dare bring him into this," I hissed, jabbing a finger at her. "You weren't there. You didn't see him struggle at the end. You didn't hold his hand while he worried about leaving Mom with nothing. This is justice." "This isn't justice, it's revenge." Amara's voice cracked, and tears streamed down her face. "And it's poisoning you. Sloane wanted to destroy him, and you just helped her do it. You did her dirty work for her. You let your pain make you cruel, and that's the one thing Dad always taught us not to be." Her words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. She was right. The horrible, undeniable truth of it settled over me, suffocating me. In my desire to punish him for his past, I had become just as ruthless as the woman we were fighting. I had become Sloane. I stumbled back and fell onto a chair, burying my face in my hands as a dry, racking sob tore through me. I hadn't just lost my job or my reputation. I had lost myself. "We have to find him," I choked out, my voice muffled by my hands. "He could be hurt. He could be—" I couldn't finish the sentence. Amara was already pulling on her coat. Her anger was gone, replaced by a grim determination. "I'll check the main road. You search the woods around the cabin. Yell for him. Don't go too far." We searched for an hour as the sun began to set, casting long, menacing shadows through the trees. My calls of his name were swallowed by the vast, indifferent forest. The air grew colder, and with every passing minute, the hope in my chest dwindled, replaced by an icy terror. I was too late. My anger had cost him his life. I was heading back toward the cabin, defeated, when Amara's car came tearing back up the road, skidding to a halt in a spray of gravel. She jumped out, her face ashen. "Get inside," she said, her voice trembling. "Turn on the news. Any channel." We rushed inside, and I fumbled with the small, ancient television in the corner, twisting the dial until a fuzzy picture of a local news anchor appeared. The headline at the bottom of the screen made my blood run cold. "Missing billionaire found. Critically ILL." The reporter's voice was grave. Benjamin Richard, the tech visionary who recently reappeared after 5 years, was found unconscious this afternoon by a hiker on a trail in the northern mountains. He was suffering from severe hypothermia and complications from a recent major surgery. He has been airlifted to Northwood Community Hospital, where he is listed in critical condition. The screen cut to blurry cell phone footage of a man on a stretcher being loaded into a helicopter. Even from a distance, I knew it was him. His legal guardian and fiancé, Sloane Devereaux, has released a statement. The anchor continued, praising the hiker and the first responders and confirming that Mr. Richard will be moved to a private, long-term care facility as soon as he is stable. She reiterated her plea for the public's help in locating Nia West, the nurse who abducted him, stating that Ms. West is responsible for his current life-threatening condition. The world narrowed to a single point of roaring sound. "My fault," the words echoed in the silent cabin. I had done this. I had nearly killed him, and in doing so, I had handed Sloane the perfect weapon. I had proven her right. I was unstable. I was a danger. Now, no one would ever believe my story. No one would ever believe his. "It's over," I whispered, sinking to the floor. "She won." "No," Amara said, kneeling beside me, her hands gripping my shoulders. "No, it's not. He's alive, Nia. That's all that matters right now. But she's going to get to him. The police will have that hospital locked down. We can't get near him." The trap was sprung. Every path led to failure. If we did nothing, he would disappear into Sloane's clutches forever. If I tried to go to him, I'd be arrested on sight, and he'd still be lost. She had thought of everything. She had backed us into a corner with no way out. We sat there in the flickering light of the television, two sisters trapped in a nightmare, watching my face flash on the screen next to the words fugitive and dangerous. A strange calm settled over me then. It was the calm of a person who has already lost everything. My career was gone. My reputation was in ashes. I had betrayed my own oath, my father's memory, and the man I had kissed. There was only one thing left I had to lose. My freedom. And maybe, just maybe, it was the only thing I had left to fight with. "There's one way," I said, my voice quiet but clear. Amara looked at me, her eyes wide with dread. "Nia, don't." She controls the story because she's the only one talking. I continued, my mind racing, a desperate, terrible plan forming. I have to change that. I can't get to him, but I can make sure the whole world is watching her. "What are you going to do?" she whispered. I stood up, my legs shaky, but my resolve solid as stone. "She wants Nia West, the kidnapper? I'm going to give her Nia West, the whistleblower. I'm going to walk right into that hospital. Not through the back door. Through the front. With every news camera in the state watching. They'll arrest you," she cried, grabbing my arm. "You'll go to prison." "I know," I said, my heart aching at the terror on her face. But they'll have to listen to me first. If I tell them everything about the threats, about what she did to my father, about the power of attorney she forced him to sign, live, on camera, she can't bury it. It will be out there. It might not be enough to save me, but it might be enough to save him. It's the only move I have left. It was a sacrifice. My life for his. My freedom for the chance that the truth might see the light of day. It was a desperate, long shot, but it was better than the slow, suffocating surrender of doing nothing. I can't let you do this alone, Amara said, her voice thick with tears. You have to, I said, pulling her into a fierce hug. You have to be my voice on the outside. You have to take care of Mom. You have to keep fighting. I pulled away and looked her in the eye. Promise me. She nodded, unable to speak, her face a portrait of heartbreak. I took a deep breath and walked to the door. I looked back one last time at the small, dusty cabin that had been our refuge and our prison. Then I stepped out into the cold night air, leaving my sister, my safety, and my old life behind. I started the long walk down the gravel road toward the distant glow of the main highway, a fugitive walking willingly toward her own capture, praying it would be enough. The gravel crunched under my feet with each step, the only sound in a world that had gone completely silent. The cold air burned my lungs. I didn't know how long I'd been walking, only that the cabin was gone behind me and the distant, orange glow of the city was growing brighter ahead. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to hide, to survive. But my father's disappointed face was burned into my mind, and it pushed me forward. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about choosing what kind of person I wanted to be, even if it was for the last few free hours of my life. I had become cruel, and the only way to wash that stain off my soul was to walk into the fire. I finally reached the highway, a roaring river of headlights that seemed alien and terrifying. I stood in the shadows of an overpass, my heart hammering against my ribs. My plan was insane. A ghost's prayer. I found a payphone at an all-night gas station that smelled of stale coffee and gasoline. The phone felt cold and heavy in my hand. My fingers trembled as I dug a quarter out of my pocket. I dialed the number for the city's biggest news channel, a number I knew from 1,000 commercials. A bored-sounding woman answered. Channel 8 News. My name is Nia West, I said, my voice coming out as a reedy whisper. I cleared my throat and tried again, forcing strength into the words. My name is Nia West. I'm the nurse you're looking for. I'm going to turn myself in at Northwood Community Hospital in 1 hour. If you want the real story, you'll be there. I hung up before she could respond, the click of the receiver sounding like a gavel. The choice was made. The clock was ticking. I spent my last few dollars on a bus ticket, my face hidden in the collar of my jacket. As the bus rumbled toward the city, I watched the dark trees blur past, feeling like I was watching my own life recede. I wasn't a nurse anymore. I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was just a story, and I was about to write the last chapter. The bus pulled into the main terminal, its brakes hissing in the near-empty station. I stepped off, ready to start my final walk to the hospital, when a familiar car screeched to a halt in front of me. Amara threw the passenger door open, her face a pale, frantic mask in the dim light. Get in, she commanded, her voice raw.
Amara, no.
You have to stay away from this, I pleaded, staying rooted to the spot. They'll think you're my accomplice. They already do, she said, her voice breaking. The police were at my apartment an hour ago. So, it doesn't matter anymore. Get in the car, Nia. You promised me I would be your voice, and I'm not letting you do this alone. Her stubbornness, the same trait that always drove me crazy, was now the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Defeated, I slid into the passenger seat. She pulled away from the curb, her hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. You can't just walk in there and surrender, she said, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. That's what Sloan wants. She wants to silence you. You need a weapon. A weapon. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. I have nothing, Amara. Just the truth, and she's already buried it under a mountain of lies. No, she said, shaking her head. She reached into the back seat and pulled the cardboard box of our father's things onto her lap. After you left, I couldn't just sit there. I went through everything. All of it. I was looking for, I don't know, an answer, a reason, and I found this. She handed me a thin, yellowed envelope. It was tucked into the back of one of his old history books. My father's neat cursive was on the front. The name read, Benjamin Richard. It had never been mailed. My breath caught in my throat. With trembling fingers, I pulled out the single, folded page inside. The letter was dated just 2 weeks before our father had sold his shares in Aperture for almost nothing. I read his words under the dim glow of the dashboard lights. Benjamin, I am writing this because I fear I cannot get through to you in person anymore. The boy I knew, the brilliant mind I so admired, is being consumed. She is a poison, son, and she is pouring it in your ear every day. Last week, she told me that if I did not sell my shares back to the company, she would find a way to make sure my name was so thoroughly ruined that I would never teach again. She spoke of fabricated accusations, of anonymous complaints to the school board. She was not emotional. She was not angry. She was stating a fact. She will destroy me to get what she wants. Asterisk. Asterisk, I am not writing to ask you to save me. I am writing to ask you to save yourself. This is your company. It is your soul. Right now, you are letting her trade it away piece by piece. She is a tyrant, and history teaches us that tyrants are never satisfied. After she is done with me, she will be coming for you. I only pray you see it before it is too late. Asterisk. Your friend, Arthur West. The paper shook in my hands. The bus ride, the phone call, my grand, suicidal plan, it all felt like the work of a different person. A fool. My anger, my guilt, my grief, it had blinded me. My father hadn't just been worried about Benjamin. He had been threatened, blackmailed. Sloane hadn't just pushed him out. She had held a knife to his career, to the very core of his identity, and forced him out. And this letter was the proof. It was his voice, reaching out from the past, telling the story I had been too hurt to hear. It wasn't just my word against hers anymore. It was my father's. Amara, I breathed, looking up from the page, my eyes blurred with tears. This changes everything. I know, she said, a grim smile touching her lips as she turned onto the street leading to the hospital. So, what's the new plan? I looked at the letter, at my father's words, and I felt a strength I hadn't felt in days. A cold, clear certainty. The fear was still there, but now it had a purpose. The plan is the same, I said, my voice steady and hard as steel. But we're not going in there asking for mercy. We're going in there demanding justice. The scene at Northwood Community Hospital was exactly the media circus I had created. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes pointed at the sky like skeletal trees. A crowd of reporters was held back by a line of police tape, their cameras flashing like 100 tiny lightning storms. And there, standing on the top step in front of the main entrance, was Sloane Devereaux. She was dressed in a simple, dark suit, her face a mask of elegant grief as she spoke to a reporter. She was playing the part of the devoted fiancée to perfection. Amara parked the car a block away. Are you ready for this? She asked, her voice a whisper. I folded the letter and tucked it safely into my pocket. I looked at my sister, my fierce, practical, wonderful sister who had driven straight into the fire for me. I'm not alone, I said. And that made all the difference. We got out of the car and started walking. At first, no one noticed us. We were just two women on the edge of the chaos. Then a single cameraman turned, his eyes widened, and he shouted my name. It's her. It's Nia West. Suddenly, every camera, every microphone, every eye was on me. The crowd of reporters surged against the police tape, a wave of noise and questions crashing over me. Nia, why did you take him? Are the allegations true? Where is Benjamin Richard now? Police officers moved to intercept us, their faces hard and professional. On the steps, Sloane's performance faltered. A flicker of pure, Unadulterated shock crossed her face before it was replaced by a cold, triumphant fury. She had expected me to be dragged in by the police, shamed and silent. She had not expected this. I ignored the reporters. I ignored the police. My eyes were locked on Sloane. I stopped just before the police line. Amara at my side, a silent, unshakable wall of support. I held up my empty hands, showing I was no threat. "My name is Nia West," I said, my voice ringing out in a sudden, shocked silence. The reporters held their microphones out, desperate to catch every word. "I am the nurse who cared for Benjamin Richard when he was homeless and dying. I am the woman who gave him one of her own kidneys so that he could live. And I am the woman Sloane Devereaux is trying to destroy because I know the truth." Sloane let out a short, sharp laugh. "The truth? The truth is that you are a disturbed criminal who kidnapped a vulnerable man." "The truth," I said, my voice rising, cutting through hers, "is that you are the one who has held him prisoner for years. First in a life he hated, and now in a hospital you control." I saw a flicker of doubt in the faces of the officers in front of me. They were listening. "She's delusional," Sloane called out, her voice tight with rage. "She's spinning fantasies." "Is this a fantasy?" I asked. I pulled the letter from my pocket. Amara held up her phone, its flashlight illuminating the page for the cameras to see. "This is a letter from my father, Arthur West. He was one of Benjamin's first investors. He wrote it 20 years ago, begging Benjamin to see what you were, a tyrant. He wrote that you, Sloane, threatened to destroy his career and fabricate lies about him if he didn't sell you his life savings for pennies. Does that sound familiar?" A murmur went through the crowd. I saw Sloane's perfectly composed face begin to crack. The triumphant smile was gone, replaced by a snarl of pure hatred. This wasn't part of her plan. A ghost from her past had come back to haunt her on live television. "He was a failed teacher with a grudge," she spat. "Those are the ravings of a bitter old man." "He was an honest man," Amara's voice cut in, sharp and clear. "And you destroyed him. But you will not destroy my sister." I took a final step forward, right up to the police tape. I looked at the lead officer, a woman with tired, intelligent eyes. "I am not resisting arrest," I said calmly. "I know I broke the law when I took him from this hospital. I did it to save his life, because I knew what she was planning. But there are two criminals in this story. I am only one of them." I turned my wrists over and held them out. "I'm ready." The officer looked from me to the letter, then up at Sloane, whose face was now a thunderous mask of fury. The tide of the story was turning, right here on the steps of the hospital, and everyone could feel it. The officer nodded curtly and produced a pair of handcuffs. As she clicked the cold metal around my wrists, my eyes drifted up to the hospital windows above. And I saw him. He was standing in a window on the 5th floor, pale and weak, wearing a hospital gown. But he was standing. He was watching. Our eyes met across the chaos, across the flashing lights and shouting reporters. He raised a hand and pressed it against the glass. A gesture of solidarity, of understanding, of a promise. He was fighting too. I was being led away in handcuffs, a prisoner. But as they put me in the back of the police car, I looked back at Sloane. The look of triumph was gone from her face, replaced by the one thing she thought she'd never feel again.
Fear.
I had lost my freedom, but I had given him the one thing he needed, a chance. And for the first time in a long time, as the car door slammed shut, I didn't feel like I was sinking. I felt like I was finally starting to breathe. The inside of a police car is small and smells like sour plastic. The world outside was a silent movie of flashing lights and blurry faces, but in here, the only sounds were the crackle of the police radio and the frantic beat of my own heart. The handcuffs were cold and tight, a constant reminder of the choice I had made. I wasn't a nurse anymore. I was a file number, a mug shot waiting to happen. In the booking room, they took my fingerprints, the ink black and staining under my nails. They took my photo against a stark white wall. I stared into the camera's lens and tried to look brave, but all I felt was the hollow echo of my sister's panicked cry as they had led me away. They put me in a holding cell. It was a concrete box with a metal bench and a single, buzzing fluorescent light that made my skin look gray. The silence was the worst part. Out there, the story was exploding, but in here, I was completely cut off. Time stretched and warped. I had no idea if it had been hours or just minutes. The weight of what I'd done pressed down on me, threatening to crush me. Had it been worth it? Had anyone even listened? Or had I just thrown away my life for nothing? The metal door scraped open. It wasn't a guard. It was a woman in a sharp suit, her face kind but tired. A public defender. She sat across from me at a small metal table, a thin folder in her hands. "Nia," she said, her voice gentle. "My name is Maria. I'm here to help you. The district attorney is pushing for the maximum charges. Kidnapping, reckless endangerment. They're trying to make an example of you." My stomach dropped. "And the letter?" I asked, my voice a dry rasp. "My father's letter? Did anyone?" She gave me a small, weary smile. "Did anyone see it?" "Nia, the whole world saw it." She slid a printed sheet of paper across the table. It was a screenshot from a news website. The headline read, "The Arthur West Letter. Tech billionaire's mentor accused CEO of blackmail 20 years ago." Below it were thousands of comments. My eyes scanned the words. Asterisk, he tried to warn him. Sloan Devereaux is a monster. Hashtag justice for Nia. I had Mr. West for history. He was the best teacher I ever had. He wouldn't lie. Asterisk. A sob caught in my throat. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a movement. My father, the quiet history teacher who thought he had died of failure, was speaking louder now than he ever had in his life. People were listening. Amara released it online, Maria explained, along with a statement of her own. News channels are interviewing your father's old students. Nurses from the hospital are speaking out anonymously, confirming your work record, your compassion. Sloan tried to paint you as an obsessive loner, but your community is painting a very different picture. They're calling you the lioness nurse. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. You've given us a fighting chance, Nia. But Sloan is still in control. She has the best lawyers money can buy, and she still has legal guardianship over Benjamin. Just then, a guard appeared at the door. Bail's been posted. Maria and I looked at each other, stunned.
Bail.
I asked. But it would be a fortune. Amara couldn't. It wasn't your sister, the guard said, unlocking my cell. He had a strange look on his face, a mix of confusion and awe. The funds were wired half an hour ago, anonymously, through a dozen different banks. It's enough money to buy a small country. My heart stopped. There was only one person who could move money like that. Benjamin. He wasn't just watching from the window anymore. He was on the board. He was playing the game. Walking out of the police station was like stepping onto another planet. Amara was there, and she threw her arms around me, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. But beyond her, the scene was chaos. The crowd was twice as large as the one at the hospital. They weren't shouting questions at me anymore. They were chanting my name. They held signs with my face on them, with quotes from my father's letter. They were teachers and nurses, students and construction workers, people from every walk of life. They saw this wasn't a story about billionaires. It was a story about a bully in a boardroom and a woman who had refused to back down. My father had taught that history was made by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Standing there, surrounded by the roar of the crowd, I finally understood what he meant. The next morning, the world exploded. It happened not with a press conference, but with a quiet, simple post on a brand new website. The site was just a white screen with black text. At the top, it said, Aperture Source Code. And below, it was a message from Benjamin Richard. For 5 years, I lived as a ghost, he wrote. I ran from a world I no longer recognized and a company I no longer controlled. I was wrong to run. I should have stayed and fought. Yesterday, a woman named Nia West, a nurse who saved my life in more ways than I can count, reminded me what it means to fight for what is right, no matter the cost. My fiancé, Sloan Devereaux, has told the world that I am unwell, that I am not of sound mind. She is using a power of attorney I signed under duress to silence me. But a cage is only a cage if you don't know where the key is. And then he revealed the key. It was brilliant. It was devastating. It was the most Benjamin Richard thing I could have possibly imagined. When he and Sloan had founded Aperture, he had written its core charter, the company's guiding principles. He'd insisted on a single, unbreakable rule, inspired by my father's warnings. Clause 7b, the Humanity Clause. It stated that the company's primary mission was to develop technology that served communities, and that no officer of the company could take any action that knowingly caused undue harm to an individual or group for financial gain. At the time, Sloan had dismissed it as sentimental nonsense. But Benjamin had built a backdoor into the company's legal framework. The power of attorney he'd signed, the very document Sloan was using as her shield, contained a trigger. If the legal guardian ever took an action that put the company in violation of Clause 7b, a secret, independent audit would be automatically initiated, and full operational control of Aperture would be immediately transferred to a 3-person emergency board. A board that Benjamin had named 20 years ago. When Ms. Devereaux used company resources to launch a campaign to publicly destroy an innocent nurse, his message continued. She triggered the audit. For the last 12 hours, that emergency board has been reviewing the results. They found that Sloan had not only violated the clause with her actions against Nia, but had done so over 200 times in the past 5 years, using predatory loans to buy up neighborhood properties, selling user data to foreign governments, and creating technology that displaced thousands of workers. As of 8 a.m. this morning, Sloan Devereaux has been removed as CEO of Aperture. All of her assets have been frozen, and all evidence of her illegal activities has been turned over to the authorities. It was a masterstroke, a checkmate planned 2 decades in advance. He had used her own greed, her own ruthlessness, as the weapon against her. He knew that, given enough power, she would eventually hang herself with her own rope. He just gave her the rope and waited. The final part of his message was a personal one. It was a scanned copy of a handwritten letter. To the board, he wrote, "Asterisk, my first act as the returning head of Aperture is this. I am dissolving the company as it exists. We have lost our way. We will rebuild from the ground up under a new name and a new mission. From this day forward, our work will be guided by the principles of a man I failed long ago. We will become the West Foundation, dedicated to using technology to serve, to heal, and to empower. All profits will be invested back into the communities we work in. Our first project will be to build a network of free health clinics for the uninsured and the homeless, ensuring that no one is ever called a resource issue again. Asterisk." I read the words through a blur of tears, my sister's arm wrapped tightly around my shoulders. He hadn't just won. He had honored my father. He had taken his guilt and his regret and transformed them into a promise, into a legacy that would help thousands. He hadn't just reclaimed his company. He had redeemed his soul. 3 days later, all the charges against me were dropped. I walked out of the courthouse into the bright sunlight, a free woman. Amara was there, my mom was there, and a crowd of nurses from the hospital was there, cheering and holding up a banner that read, "Welcome back, Lioness." He was waiting for me a little ways away from the crowd, leaning against a simple car, no driver in sight. He looked whole. The shadows were gone from his eyes, replaced by a calm, quiet light. He was wearing simple clothes, not a suit, and he looked more like a professor than a billionaire. We stood in silence for a moment, the roar of the world fading away. "Your father," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He was right about everything. About Sloan. About me. It just took me 20 years to finally listen. "He would be so proud of you, Benjamin," I said softly. And I knew it was true. My father hadn't believed in punishing people. He believed in their capacity to learn, to grow, to be better. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into the car and pulling out a simple, framed piece of paper. It was his old essay from my father's class, the one with the big red A+ on it. And underneath it, in Benjamin's own handwriting, was a new note. "Mr. West," it read. Asterisk, you told me my ambition was a fire. You were right. For a long time, I let it burn everything around me. Now I hope to use it to warm the world. Thank you for the lesson. It's the most important one I ever learned. Asterisk. He held it out to me. I thought maybe we could hang it in the first clinic we build, he said. I took it from him, my fingers brushing his. The same spark was there, but this time it wasn't one of desperation. It was a spark of a beginning. I think he would like that, I whispered. We weren't a tragic story anymore. We were two survivors, scarred in the same place, bound by a wound and a gift. And as we stood there, with my father's words between us, I knew that our story was just getting started. We had a world to warm. And just like that, it was over. The fight, the running, the fear. It all collapsed into a quiet moment on a sun-drenched sidewalk. We stood there, the sounds of the cheering crowd and my sister's happy tears a distant hum. It was just me and Benjamin, with my father's words held between us like a fragile truce. My heart, which had been a frantic drum for weeks, finally found a slower, steadier rhythm. It was the rhythm of a life I hadn't known I was looking for. A life that wasn't about just surviving the day, but about building a better tomorrow. So, I said, a small, shaky smile finding its way to my lips. The West Foundation. It has a nice ring to it. He smiled back, a genuine, easy smile that reached all the way to his hazel eyes. I thought so. Of course, it's going to need a head of community health. Someone who actually knows how to heal people. The pay is terrible, the hours are long, but you do get to be the boss. I laughed, a real, full laugh that felt like letting go of a breath I'd been holding for years. All that time, all I'd wanted was a system that worked, a place where compassion wasn't a liability. He wasn't just offering me a job, he was offering me the chance to build the world I'd always dreamed of. I'll think about it, I said, my voice teasing, but my eyes giving him the answer he already knew. We stood there for a beat longer, two people who had met in the wreckage of our lives, and were now looking at a clean, open space to build something new. Something beautiful. 1 year later, the smell of fresh paint and disinfectant still lingered in the air. It was the smell of a new beginning. The first Arthur West Memorial Clinic stood bright and welcoming on a street where rundown buildings had once cast long shadows. There were no harsh fluorescent lights here, only warm lamps and big windows that let the afternoon sun stream in. The waiting room was filled with comfortable chairs, a children's play area, and a coffee station that was always free. There were no billing windows, no one demanding insurance cards you didn't have. Our only currency was kindness. My life was completely different. The quiet anonymity I'd once had was gone forever. My face was known. Sometimes, walking down the street, people would stop me, their eyes wide. They'd thank me or tell me I was brave. It was strange, and I never quite got used to it. The press called me the Lioness Nurse, a name that felt too big for me to wear. But here, inside these walls, I wasn't a headline. I was just Nia, the nurse in charge. Sloan was a headline too, but for different reasons. Her trial had been swift. The evidence Benjamin had uncovered was overwhelming. She was serving a long sentence in a federal prison, her empire dismantled, her name a warning whispered in boardrooms. I never felt happy about it, only a deep, profound sadness for the brilliant woman she might have been if not for the poison my father had seen in her so long ago. Amara, my practical, sensible sister, was now the chief financial officer of a multi-billion-dollar foundation. She ran our finances with a fierce, protective efficiency, making sure every dollar went exactly where it was needed. I walked past her new office. Her door was always open and saw her on the phone, arguing with a supplier about the cost of bandages. She caught my eye and rolled her own, but I saw the proud, happy smile she was trying to hide. She had found her purpose right alongside me. She wasn't just managing my life anymore, she was helping manage a legacy. I was finishing my rounds, checking on the staff, when a new patient was wheeled in through the ambulance bay. He was young, maybe 25, with terrified eyes and a pale, sweaty face. He was clutching his side, his breathing shallow. One of our new nurses, a bright young woman named Maya, was at his side, her expression a perfect blend of calm and concern. "What have we got?" I asked, my voice low and steady. "Unknown male, found collapsed in an alley a few blocks from here," Maya reported, her hands moving with practiced skill as she checked his vitals. "He's running a high fever, complaining of severe abdominal pain. No ID, no wallet." My heart gave a familiar, painful squeeze. For a split second, he wasn't a stranger. He was Ben, curled up on a gurney in the ER, a ship taking on water. I felt the echo of that old helplessness, that same rage against a system designed to fail a man just like this. But then I looked around. I wasn't in that system anymore. I was in the solution. "All right," I said, my voice clear and confident. "Let's get him into Trauma Bay 1. Maya, start a saline drip and get a full blood panel running. Page Dr. Chen. I want a full workup. And don't worry about the paperwork. We'll sort that out later. The only thing that matters right now is him." Maya nodded, her eyes shining with respect. "Yes, ma'am." As they wheeled him away, I stood there for a moment in the quiet hallway. I placed a hand on my side, over the faint, silvery line of my scar. It didn't ache anymore. It was just a part of me now, a reminder, a map of where I'd been. Dr. Evans's words from that terrible Tuesday came back to me. "You can't save them all, Nia." He was right. I couldn't save them all. But now, because of a sick homeless man with a secret, because of my father's ghost, because I had refused to give up, we could save so many more. We had built a lifeboat, big enough for anyone who needed it. That evening, I found Benjamin on the roof of the clinic. It was a space we had turned into a small garden for staff and recovering patients. He was standing by the railing, looking out over the city lights, the skyline he had helped build. He didn't seem like a billionaire or a tech genius. He just looked like a man at peace. I walked up and stood beside him, leaning my head on his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around me, pulling me close. It felt like coming home. "It was a long day," I said with a sigh. "A good day," he corrected me gently. He gestured out at the sprawling city. "Your father used to tell me that cities were like living organisms, that they had a heartbeat. For years, all I could hear was the sound of money, of commerce. But now, standing here with you, I think I can finally hear what he meant. It's the sound of people, of their lives, their hopes." "He would have loved this," I said, my voice thick. "This place. You." He turned to face me, his hands finding mine. He brought my left hand up and gently kissed the scar on the back of it, the one from my childhood fall. "Every good thing in my life, Nia, it has your father's fingerprints on it. Including you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn velvet box. My breath caught. It wasn't a fancy box from some expensive jeweler. It looked old. Cherished. He opened it. Inside, there wasn't a diamond. It was a simple, elegant gold ring, but the stone was a smooth, polished piece of dark, sea-worn wood. "It was my mother's," he said, his voice soft. "She wasn't a wealthy woman. She was a poet. She said wood was better than a diamond because it was once alive. It had a story. It remembered the sun." He looked me in the eye, and his gaze held all the pain of his past and all the hope of our future. "My life was a wasteland for so long. You, Nia West, you are the one who remembered the sun for me. You brought me back to life." He didn't get down on one knee. He didn't need to. He just stood there, as my equal, as my partner. "Will you help me write the rest of our story?" Tears were streaming down my face, but they were happy tears. Tears of release. Tears of a profound, soul-deep fulfillment. I didn't have to speak. I just nodded, a mess of joy and love. He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. It felt warm, alive, just as his mother had said. I threw my arms around his neck, and he lifted me off the ground, spinning me in a slow circle under the endless blanket of city stars. We were two scarred people who had found each other in the dark. He had given me a purpose, and I had given him a piece of myself, a piece that was now and forever a part of his heartbeat. We had a foundation to run, clinics to build, and a world to heal. Our past would always be a part of us, a quiet ache on a cold day, but it no longer defined us. It was simply the beginning of our story. The first, difficult chapter of a book I knew would have a beautiful ending. What did this story teach you about second chances? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories that will change how you see the world.